Hello friends and welcome back. My name is Deepa from DeeZinesByD and today I have the second post for the August Club Kits for Spellbinders. So in this video I'm going to be featuring the large die of the month for August and the small die of the month. Now the large die of the month is called Strawberry Patch, so it has all of these beautiful strawberry patch elements, a beautiful basket, the strawberries, the vine. It's gorgeous. And then for the small die of the month, we have the outline sentiments, which have a whole bunch of beautiful coordinating sentiments that could go with this or any of the other sets that were released with the club kits this month. So here is the outline sentiments. You can see you have cheers, congrats, for you, thanks, hello, and then you also have some floral elements that you can use to jazz up these sentiments. Then you've also got the strawberry patch, which is the large die of the month. You've got these beautiful strawberries, which also come with a couple of flowers. You've got leafy pieces along with a basket and a large vine. Now, I'm also going to be using the embossing folder of the month. This is called Intertwined Lattice, and as you can see, easier to see on the darker cardstock here, it is beautiful, and it works perfectly with that strawberry patch. So I am going to use it for my first card. So this first card is featuring the large die of the month, and I've gone ahead and cut out all my pieces. So I've cut the vine out in a dark cardstock, green glitter cardstock, and a couple of lighter green pieces. I'm going to go ahead and layer these because I'm going to be creating a mountain fold card. I do want to make sure that the stem, which is going to be the main center point, which is going to sit on one of the mountains, I want to make sure that it's very sturdy. So I have to kind of back it up with a few layers. So I've gone ahead and stuck all these green layers together along with the glitter on the front. And the reason for the glitter is just to create, you can see this card's very glittery, so I kind of went a little overboard with the glitter, but if you are one who loves glitter, you will love this card. Now, to kind of tone down the vine a little bit, I did add the darker green vine on top. And the way that this set works is there's half pieces of the leaf, and those half pieces I'm going to make glitter, which is also going to make that glitter from the background stand out. So I like to use my acrylic blocks for larger pieces like this to make sure that I fully adhered everything down. So you can see you got a nice thick die cut and it's going to stand up by itself. So next I'm going to assemble this little basket. So I cut it out of some white cardstock and some gold mirror. I don't think this one's mirror. This is gold brushed metal cardstock. And then I'll go ahead and put together my strawberries. So I did add some red cardstock behind that. I probably should have added some white because it would have stood out a little bit more, but that's okay. This still looks good and my strawberries are very shiny. So as I said, you have the halves of the leaves, which I'm adding now with that green glitter cardstock. And you could have just used a different color of green. It really gives that vine a bit more dimension. And then you also have some separate leaves, which you can use this same technique to put those together. So I've used the darker color and the glitter color to kind of give those leaves dimension. Now for the sentiment, I'm using the hello from the small die cut set. Sorry, from the small die of the month, and I'm using, again, I used this in my last video, I'm using the peach glitter foam. So this was released a couple months ago by Spellbinders. I love this foam. This is, I think, my favorite color. It's just got a nice subtle look to it, and it goes well with all those beautiful peaches. So I'm adding it to some peach cardstock, which is the shadow portion, and you can see that the letters are not all attached. So you do kind of have to add maybe a few letters or one letter at a time. Now, I also grabbed the extra glitter portion, that the negative piece, and I cut out these little dots with it too, which comes with the set. So those little dots I'll use in the end to embellish the card. Now let's get to the actual layout. The first thing you're going to want to do is cut out a 4" by 5 1/4" panel of white cardstock. The next thing you'll need to do is cut a 4" wide strip of green cardstock, and then turn it on its side and cut widths 2" 2 times, and then 1" 2 times. So in the end, you'll end up with two 2" and two 1" strips, which are 4" in length. And that's what you end up with. Now I'm going to go to the actual card base. I am going to cut an 8.5 by 11 inch white card base to create an A2 size top folding card base. So I cut that at 4.25, and then I'm going to turn it on its side and score it at 5.5. So that is my A2 sized top folding card base. I'll fold that up nice and well. See that that first panel we cut fits on there nicely with an 1/8 of an inch border. Now, the other half that I had cut from the 8.5 by 11 inch cardstock, I'm now going to use to create the mountains. So I'm going to score this using my scoring board at 1.25 inch, at 1/4 inches, 2.25, 4.25, 5.25, and then I'm going to cut it at 6.25. So I scored it and then cut it afterwards because it just made it easier to track where the line was. So if you're not listening or you couldn't keep up with my horrible explanation of the dimensions, you can see I've written on the bottom here exactly where you need to score it. So you can always pause and check that out. So I've cut that piece off, and now I've got my mountains. So now I just kind of have to accordion fold this. So that first 1/4 inch is actually just like a lip. It's an attachment piece. So I'll fold that up, and then I'll continue with the accordion fold to create 2 mountains. One is going to be 2 inches and one is going to be 1 inch. Now all I have to do is attach it to that top folding A2 size card base we cut. So there's that lip I'm showing you. What I'm gonna do is attach it so that you can see it in the front, and that's okay because we have that panel that's gonna cover it up, because you don't really want that lip on the inside, otherwise it's gonna look a bit messy. So I'm adding some 1/4 inch strong double-sided adhesive to the lip, and then I'm gonna line it up with that card base and attach it. So the most important point here is to make sure that everything kind of lines up nicely so that it will fold properly and flat and fit in your envelope. So now that that's stuck there, you'll see this is on the front. It's okay. We're going to cover it. And there are your 2 mountain folds. And on the inside, it looks clean. You see, I placed this here. You don't know there's a join. It looks perfect. Now for all of these pieces we cut, I'm going to emboss all of these in that intertwined lattice embossing folder. So I'm sticking them in. I didn't show it here, but I added a little bit of water mist, not too much, but just enough to give it a bit of dampness so that it can kind of mold to the embossing folder without cracking or anything. And I've basically embossed all of those little pieces. Now, my next step is to add some color. So I'm adding some blue ink from Altenew. This is Tide Blue and Aqualicious, I think. And I'm just adding the lighter color just to kind of give it that nice bluey, actually, sorry, it's not Aqualicious, it's Sea Breeze, but it gives it a nice blue tone, and then the darker blue just kind of creates a bit of depth. Now for the greens, I added Hunter Green in the exact same manner, so I added it a little lightly so that basically the bumps created from the embossing folder are picking up the darker ink, which creates that depth. So now I've attached that main panel, the blue one, and I'll go ahead and attach these 2 greens. So the 2-inch panels are going to go on the larger mountain and the 1 inch on the smaller mountain. And I did kind of cut off like maybe 1/8 of an inch from all of those panels just to create a little bit of a border. And when I say that, I mean 1/8 of an inch from the green panels. So now once this is put together, you can see I've got my sky and my hilly green grass. So now I'll go ahead and attach this strawberry vine. And it did have like quite a bit of strength and structure to it, but I didn't quite trust it. So I went ahead and added an acetate piece just to kind of give it a bit more structure. So I basically cut this piece to be a little bit smaller, so maybe about 3 3/4 of an inch, 3 3/4 of an inch in width, and then the height is just enough so that I get a nice little border at the top, and it's going to fit the vine on top. You can adjust it to fit however you'd like. I added some adhesive on the bottom so that it attaches to the back of that larger mountain. And then once I felt that was on there right where I wanted it, I then added some more glue behind, or adhesive behind the vine, and attached it to the acetate. So it's still going to have that mountain fold look, but that acetate piece will stick up and give it more structure, but you won't see it because it's acetate. Well, not readily anyways. So now all that I have left to do is kind of put everything together. I'm going to add all of the little strawberries to the vine. I'm going to add them to the basket, put all of the extra leaves in and around the strawberries, and then add my sentiment. I'll add some pieces with foam and some pieces with glue. It all really depends what's going to work with the design and what kind of stands out a little bit more. I mean, some of the smaller leaves I added with foam, and I'm using smaller foam pieces. It's not the actual foam that comes with the Spellbinders club kits, because those are very thick, and to be honest with you, I use those sparingly because I really like them. Now, you could see earlier for the basket of strawberries, I kind of attached them behind the basket so they looked like they were gathered and kind of bunched up a bit, and I just put some clear tape on the back to stick all the strawberries together, and added some glue between the strawberries and the basket. So now this die set actually comes with these cute little flowers that you can add as well. I think they'd look really nice in white, but I did have the pinky peachy color from my sentiment that I wanted to tie into the rest of the card. So I felt that these flowers would look good in a peach cardstock. So here I used some Sizzix Opulent Rose Gold Pearled cardstock, which has that peachy look. So I just kind of added some of these flowers in and around the strawberries to add a bit more interest and to tie in that sentiment. Now I've got all of those little confetti pieces that I had cut out from the excess glitter foam that I had from the sentiment, and I'm just adding those on there. Again, that adds a bit more of the pink and ties everything in. And you can see this card is just full of glitter, and I really just couldn't help myself with this one because I loved the large strawberries. But it probably would be better to break this up with a bit more of a solid cardstock. That way the glitter just enhances it rather than just being all glitter. And that's the final card for you. Now let's move on to the small die of the month. So for this card, I'm using the thanks sentiment, and I'm mainly just using the actual sentiment. It does come with a shadow die. I've actually colored some cardstock using some Pinkalicious Baby Pink and Pink Diamond Altenew inks because I did want some pinks, but in like varying tones. So I wanted to go from a darker to a lighter tone. And what I'm going to be doing is die cutting the sentiments and adding it to the background. I have a 6 3/4 by 4 3/4 inch, kind of like a mint green panel here, or a seafoam green. I sprayed it with a bit of that water and then embossed it with the intertwined lattice embossing folder. And I'm using this as my background, and I'm adding a 4-inch width white panel in the center just to kind of break up the embossing. And this is mainly important to create a center stage so that I can highlight those outline sentiments. Now, to give this a bit more of a finished look, I'm adding 2 strips of silver metallic cardstock to either side where the white meets the embossed piece. Now I'm using a ruler to find the center of this panel. And once I've done that, I can kind of figure out the way I want to lay out my sentiments. So I've cut out the thanks 2 times from each of those different colors, and I've kept the negative. I cut it out again from some white cardstock because I didn't keep the negative piece, or I wasn't going to use the negative piece for these. That's what it was. So I've kind of attached it near the bottom of my panel in a way that I've kind of allowed for proper spacing of the thanks so that I can fit it on this card 6 times. Now I'm using the lightest color of the thanks, the lightest pink, and I'm just gluing it, adding some Barely Arts glue at the back, and then I'm basically using an inlay technique to make sure that all of these letters are spaced out just like the die is. So it's important to note that as I do this, you'll see every time I place a letter down or a section of the sentiment down, I am lifting it up again. And that's because any glue that might come out and seep out from behind is then going to stick to your negative piece, and your negative piece is not going to come off. So I continually do this to make sure that it's not going to get stuck. So now that I've stuck the final S down, I'll stick it down nicely, and then I'll kind of hold down the die cut underneath and make sure that that negative piece isn't stuck and pull it right off. So it's in this way you can make sure that your sentiment keeps the same spacing as your die. You don't have to do this. So I'm going to show you in a minute that you can do this just freehand and just kind of eye it if you want to. I will go ahead and continue this up my panel, and I'm going to go from light, medium tone to dark tone, medium tone to light tone as I move upwards with the 6 thanks on this background. So again, I've completed this thanks and I'm removing that negative piece and sticking down every little bit there. And I'm showing you here that I'm actually using the Flutix Classics ovals. I'm using the 2 smaller ovals, actually the 2 second largest, I'll put that out there. And I've cut one from silver and one from white. And you can see I'm going to put it in the middle. So this thanks in the middle is kind of going to get covered up. So this is the best area to kind of try out this technique, this freehand technique. So now I'm not using the negative die cut. I'm just kind of sticking down the T, the H-A-N, and then the K and the S in kind of the same manner that I see the other 2. Or if you didn't do the other 2, you could just look at the die to kind of make sure you spaced it out nicely and that they're all kind of uniform and look the same. So I'll just go ahead and stick everything down and you can see it looks pretty nice. It looks pretty much the same and I didn't use that other technique. So you can see I've got all those thanks placed down now and I'm adding that oval centerpiece. So I've kind of mounted the silver cardstock in kind of an offset fashion to the white to create a little bit of an outline. It ties in those silver lines on either side of the white. And then I've also die cut the thanks again from some silver cardstock and backed it onto vellum as the shadow. So there's a shadow die with all of the sentiments in the outline sentiment small die of the month set. So you can use it, you don't have to. In this case, I didn't use it for the background and I did use it for the main sentiment. Now, you can see all my negative pieces on the left there. I basically use all the extra little areas to cut out the little flowers. And then I also cut out the vines with some darker green cardstock and then the leaves with more of that silver cardstock. So this just ties in all of the colors. And I did notice once I got through this, I kind of forgot one of the dyes, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm using some of this pink opalescent confetti or sequins that actually came out as well to kind of go with this card and embellish it a bit. Now here's the little die that I kind of lost in my little envelope, but this makes more sense. I wondered why those vines had so many stems to them when there's only one flower, but my mistake. There is like a nice little like cone type flower. It's not a cone flower, but I don't know what to call it. A little flourish, a different shaped flower that makes this set just look so much nicer. So you can see I actually removed the center of the larger flower and added the other layer and then put it back. It's very easy to do. And then I'm adding all of those other little different looking flowers to those stem that I initially put down. And there's also like a separate stem that I added behind that oval centerpiece as well. Now this actually looks way better to me and makes more sense. So thank God I found that die in my set. So I'll go ahead and finish this up by adding more of those cute little flowers. Now I actually really like these flowers. I would definitely love to kind of cut out a few more and stick them on the inside of the card to tie in this design on the inside, or maybe even use them as more of a focal point or to create a background as well. So there you have the final card that I created using the small die of the month. You can see that beautiful thanks is kind of highlighted in the background and the center, and you have those beautiful florals to add more interest. These are the 2 cards that I created today with the small die of the month, which is called Outline Sentiments, and the large die of the month, which is called Strawberry Patch. So everything that I've used today is listed within my blog, which is listed in the description. Please go ahead and check that out. If you've been inspired by me, I would love for you to go ahead and buy through those links. I would greatly appreciate it if you could. If you don't, no worries. On top of that, if you like my video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I have some more inspiration coming your way with the other club kits. Have a great day, guys, and I hope to see you again. Bye.